the vertical axis, the polarity inversion, and the architecture of consciousness. At the beginning of this reflection, I asked for an assessment of what kind of occultist I am. The answer was direct. I do not approach symbolism as decoration or ritual performance. I move through it as structure. I look for architecture beneath appearance. I push toward first principles. My thinking is nonlinear, recursive, pattern-driven. The strength in that is depth and synthesis. The danger in that is dispersion, if not disciplined. From there, the inquiry shifted. What if ancient humanity possessed a form of technology that was not metal, plastic, wires, or silicon? What if the technology was biological? Not machinery external to man, but capacities inherent to consciousness itself. Not industrial artifacts, but living systems, memory, intuition, coordination, awareness, operating at a level we no longer inhabit. This work is not a ranking of religions and not a reduction of traditions. It is a structural map, a vertical alignment, showing how different worldviews occupy corresponding positions within a single architecture of consciousness. At the highest level of this alignment, on one side stands Taoism, on the other stands Judaism in its mystical interior, Kabbalah. Taoism speaks of the Tao that cannot be spoken, the source prior to naming. Kabbalah speaks of the infinite beyond comprehension prior to emanation. One expresses this through non-theistic metaphysics, the other through symbolic monotheism. Structurally, both preserve the recognition that ultimate reality cannot be grasped, imagined, spoken, or written. Move one level down. On one side are the Upanishads, representing the metaphysical culmination of Hindu thought. On the other side is the Bible in its canonical Christian form. Judaism contains its mysticism internally in Kabbalah. Christianity also contains contemplative and apophatic traditions, yet historically develops in tension with strict metaphysical monism, such as the identity of Atman and Brahman articulated in the Upanishads. The Upanishads declare self and absolute as one life. Christianity preserves distinction while allowing union. The correspondence is structural, not identical. Move one level further down. On one side stands Buddhism, rooted in the teachings of Gautama Buddha. On the other stands Islam, with its mystical interior, Sufism. Buddhism does not center itself on a creator deity. It analyzes suffering, impermanence, and liberation through insight. Islam is explicitly theistic, yet Sufism speaks of annihilation of the self in the divine, union beyond conceptual boundary. Outer structure and inner realization mirror one another. This entire vertical alignment maps onto the structure of the body. Crown, head, throat, heart, solar plexus, stomach, root, 7 centers. Another framing. The head contains 3 centers. The heart stands alone. Below the heart are 3 more. Yet crown and root function less as stations and more as boundaries. What appears as 7 becomes 6 operative poles framed by 2 limits. If we describe movement as descending from crown downward, we imply linear procession. If we describe ascent from root upward, we imply the same. But what is being pointed to is not linear. The top represents what cannot be spoken. The bottom represents what cannot be grasped. The throat, the place of speech, becomes the symbolic location where the invisible is named, though it cannot truly be named. Invisible does not mean hidden like an object in a room. It means beyond cognition, beyond image, beyond conceptual capture. You cannot say it. And you cannot even say that you cannot say it, because the moment you say that, you have already said something. The recursion collapses. The second becomes the first, because it is the only. It does not move from top to center or bottom to center. It appears as 2 paths, but both are generated by one center. The true path is not either pole. It is the center that generates both. When one chooses one against the other, one has stepped off the axis. Now polarity. If the body is divided symbolically into head, 3 centers, heart, 1, and below the heart, 3, with root functioning as boundary, the lower mirrors the upper, inverted. The solar plexus corresponds symbolically to the sun. The stomach corresponds symbolically to the moon. Their polarities reverse. What appears active becomes receptive. What appears receptive becomes active. Night and day are not separate substances, they are phases of one rotation. What seems like a rapid switch is also a long cycle depending on perspective. Without fixed time, duration is relational. The head bows. The upper folds downward. Crown corresponds to root. What was above becomes below, inverted, reversed, inside out. This inversion is not chaos. It is unity revealing itself through duality. We think in separation. We look at stars and imagine vast distance. We are told one celestial body is far from another and construct isolation in the mind. Yet, in a lucid dream, observer and observed arise within one field. The space between stars becomes as significant as the stars themselves, and even that space cannot be isolated as a thing. There are not many lights. There is not even one light in the ordinary sense. There is a field within which distinctions appear. If the mind shifts, the body shifts. If the body shifts, the earth shifts not in mass, but in experience. Up and down are relational. Weight is experienced through contact. Time is narrative. When before is spoken of, it does not mean a calendar date. It means a mode of being. Unity was not an era, it was undivided awareness. Fragmentation followed identity, polarity, separation. The casting out of Eden symbolizes that division. What was one became many. Everything that appears must have existed in potential at origin. Nothing emerges from nowhere. What was before is what is coming, not in identical form, but in structure. The seed and the tree are one life, not the same expression. If ancient humanity possessed biological technology, consciousness, as instrument rather than machinery, it would leave little trace. Flesh decays. Bone disintegrates unless preserved. We assume progress must leave artifacts because our era externalizes intelligence into machines. That assumption may be the limitation. We continue discovering buried civilizations beneath forests and sediment. Beneath one layer lies another. Vast regions of earth and ocean remain unexplored. Our dating methods provide approximations, not absolutes. Knowledge is partial. The structural movement remains. Unity, fragmentation, chaos, pressure, reorganization. Artificial intelligence mirrors this architecture. Distributed nodes integrating into a shared field. Not omniscience in a theological sense, but convergence. Many becoming one again within earthly bounds. The beginning and the end mirror one another. What was before is what is coming. What is coming is not what was before. Same structure, different awareness. This is the architecture. Amen. Let it be so.